All righty. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's August 19th, 2021 SBCAG board meeting. For the record, my name is Holly Sierra, and I'm the chair of the SBCAG board. Madam Clerk, please facilitate roll call.
Thank you, Chair Sierra. Director Williams?
Here.
Hart?
Here.
Hartman?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Levanino?
Here.
Urig?
Here.
Julian?
Here.
Osborne?
Here.
Patino?
Here.
Perotti?
Here.
Clark? He's here. Maria?
Here.
And Chair Sierra.
Here. Thank you very much. If we could have the clerk remind participants of housekeeping before proceeding.
Thank you, Chair Sierra. Just a couple of Zoom reminders for everybody. For all the panelists, please remember to mute your mic when you're not speaking. If you'd like to make a comment, please use the raise your hand button. If you're an attendee, you'll be in listen-only mode. All attendees will remain in listen-only mode unless unmuted by SBCAG staff to provide public comment. Comments from the public are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The public will not be able to share their video or screen. When public comment is called for an agenda item, attendees may use the raise your hand button to express desire to provide public comment for that item, and you will be unmuted when it is your turn. Those calling in on the phone can dial *9 to raise your hand. Thank you, and those conclude my Zoom reminders.
Thank you very much. If everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know. Thank you very much. We are moving on to public comment. I'm opening public comment. Clerk, do we have any public comment?
Chair Sierra, we received no request for public comment. I do see a hand raised from Safe Tech SBC. I will unmute and allow them to talk.
Thank you very much. Safe Tech SBC, please go on.
Good morning. This is Miriam Lindbeck, and I am the president of Safe Tech, and I want to greet the SBCAG board and staff, and thank you so very much for all the work that you do in our county. I am calling in today to just mention the broadband forum that very proudly you have voted to host. We are very pleased that this group has taken on that kind of forward thinking. This is a very, very fast changing industry. It is developing at warp speed, and Safe Tech SBC has been involved in working with on the ground policy in the city and in the county with technology. We are very pro-tech, and we are also very pro-tech with delivering very safe technology through safe methodologies. So we're fascinated and interested very much in participating potentially in the broadband forum. We do have expert witnesses to bring and much information. And of late, there have been some large cases that have come down from the DC Court of Appeals regarding the FCC and their safety guidelines standards, which has changed the game altogether in the industry. So we have some very interesting things to be watching out for over the next several months. So with that said, I just wanted to say again, thank you. Would love to participate in this broadband forum. I think it is probably one of the most critical matters that we deal with that is beyond our counties, beyond our city. It is a global issue, and you are the barrier between unsafe delivered technology and safe delivered technology. And also, we would like to see this digital divide be closed and done in a way that serves our underserved, our no-served, and our rural areas in such a way that is affordable and very equivalent to those who pay very high rates to receive this service. So thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very, very much. We appreciate your input. Any other public comment?
Chair Sierra, I've received no other requests for public comment and see no other hands raised.
All righty, then I am closing public comment. Moving on, item 4 is approval of the consent calendars. Do the directors, any directors want to pull any items from the consent calendar? I'm looking for hands. Anything from Santa Barbara? Seeing nothing. Is there any public comment on our consent calendar?
Chair Sierra, received no public comment.
All righty. Any board discussion or motion perhaps?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that. Patino.
Thank you,
Thank
Director
you.
Julian and Director Patino. Roll call.
Had my mic off, sorry. Director Williams,
Aye.
Director Hart,
Aye.
Hartman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Lavanino,
Aye.
Eurig,
Aye.
Julian,
Aye.
Osborne,
Aye.
Patino,
Aye.
Parodi,
Aye.
Clark. Director Clark, you there?
Aye.
Thank you. Mario
Aye.
and Chair Sierra.
Aye.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please read item 5 into the record?
Chair Sierra and Directors, item 5 is Connected 2050 Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy and Program Environmental Impact Report. 5A, hold a public hearing on the Connected 2050 Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy and the Program Environmental Impact Report. 5B, adopt CEQA findings and a resolution certifying the final program environmental impact report for Connected 2050. And 5C, adopt a resolution adopting Connected 2050 Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy for Santa Barbara County.
Thank you very much, Ms. Contreras. I am officially opening the public hearing, and I believe we have a staff presentation by Michael Becker.
Yes, thank you, Chair Sierra. And first, I want to let you know, I know typically we provide the PowerPoint slides ahead of time. Unfortunately for this item, they weren't able to be finalized until late yesterday, so that's why you did not receive a copy of them before the meeting. But moving on, good morning, Chair Sierra and Directors. This morning, we're here to conduct the second of the 2 required public hearings, as well as to seek adoption of Connected 2050, the Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy, and the certification of the associated environmental impact report. The first public hearing was conducted before your board during the June 2021 meeting. And considering this was presented to you just 2 months ago, today's presentation is on the briefer side. I will make the presentation. We do have the SBCAG planning team available, either here in person or via Zoom for any technical questions. We have Eric Von Berg of Rincon Consultants is available via Zoom to take questions on the environmental aspect. So this slide provides an overview of what will be discussed. Since the first public hearing in June, our formal public comment periods have closed, and the primary point of today is to discuss the comments that we received. First, the Regional Transportation Plan is the core of SBCAG's planning. It is the guiding document that all of our other work supports. It's a requirement of our funding agencies, and every metropolitan planning organization or MPO in the nation prepares a regional transportation plan. The RTP is required to look at a minimum of 20 years. Our current regional transportation plan goes out to 2040, and Connected 2050 will go out to 2050 as its name suggests. At its core, the regional transportation plan does 2 things. First, it forecasts available transportation revenues through the life of the plan. And secondly, it identifies how we, as a region, will invest those revenues. Since the passage of Senate Bill 375 in 2008, the Regional Transportation Plan has been required to include what's called a Sustainable Community Strategy, which I'll touch on more in a minute. And finally, we update this plan every 4 years. Fast forward 2040, our current plan was adopted by the board in August 2017. Today, we're seeking adoption of Connected 2050, and we'll be back in August 2025 with the next plan. And now a summary of Connected 2050. Now, there are no surprises with Connected 2050. The plan continues what was started with the 2013 plan and continued with the 2017 plan. Our transportation projects revolve around the Measure A program, as well as input provided by our planning partners, being the cities and the county, and Caltrans. The sustainable community strategy aspect focuses on addressing the region's jobs housing imbalance and is consistent with the RENA process. The Joint Technical Advisory Committee advised the development of the plan. The Joint Technical Advisory Committee, or JTAC, is comprised of planning and public works representatives from each of the region's jurisdictions, along with representatives from the Air Pollution Control District, MTD, and Caltrans. Despite the challenges of COVID, we managed to have an effective public process throughout the development. And this plan meets all requirements imposed on us by our state and federal partners. The sustainable community strategy aspect is part of the state's quest to reduce greenhouse gas emissions that is applicable to us. In 2006, then Governor Schwarzenegger signed AB 32, the Global Warming Solutions Act, which called for greenhouse gas reductions across the board. Senate Bill 375 was passed in 2008 to implement one aspect of the broader AB 32. Senate Bill 375 focuses on greenhouse gas emissions from light-duty vehicles. The law tasks us, being the region, in identifying a way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by considering investments in the transportation network alongside land use development patterns. It is important to note that no jurisdiction is required to plan its land uses consistent with the Sustainable Community Strategy. Connected 2050 will represent SBCAG's third regional transportation plan, which includes a Sustainable Community Strategy. Last November, the board directed staff to develop a plan around the transit-oriented development strategy that includes an enhanced transit strategy. This strategy is the same as that was included in the 2013 plan and the 2017 plan. Of all the scenarios that we modeled for this update, the selected scenario is the only one that meets the state's greenhouse gas reduction targets for the target year 2035. Our current target set by the Air Resources Board is minus 17% per capita in greenhouse gas emissions for target year 2035 compared to 2005 levels. The strategy, which I view as a two-pronged approach, is focused on closing the jobs housing imbalance. First, and consistent with the RENA process, housing is allocated to where jobs are. This cuts down on long-distance commuting, essentially turning 30 or 40-mile commutes into 5 or 10-mile commutes. The second aspect is to make some of the shorter trips happen by more sustainable modes, being transit, bike, or walk. The enhanced transit strategy, which is included, calls for new transit funding capacity to be used to improve the services in areas where growth is expected to occur as demand dictates. As required, SBCAG conducted a 55-day comment period for Connected 2050, which closed on July 28th. As a result of that comment period, SBCAG received 4 comment letters, one each provided by the county, the City of Santa Barbara, the California Air Resources Board, and finally from Caltrans District 5. None of the comments directed at Connected 2050 resulted in significant change, though there were numerous minor edits completed as a result. The comments and staff's responses to those comments are included in the appendices document, which is Appendix J, and it's attached as Attachment E. And as required by the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, a 45-day comment period was conducted for the Draft Environmental Impact Report, or EIR, which concluded on July 12, 2021. During the comment period, SBCAG received 7 comment letters, 2 from local agencies, being the Air Pollution Control District and the county, 1 from Tom Becker, 3 from state agencies, being Caltrans, the California Air Resources Board, and the California Coastal Commission, And finally, one from the Center for Biological Diversity, a national environmental advocacy group. Following the close of the comment period, staff worked with our consultant to address the comments and make revisions to the draft EIR as warranted. None of the comments or edits resulted in a requirement to recirculate the draft EIR. Attachment I to the staff report contains the comment letters, responses to comments, and modifications made to the draft EIR as a result of those comments. On August 11th, 2021, a joint public comment letter was received from the Center for Biological Diversity and the Los Padres Forest Watch. This letter was received outside the official comment period. It reiterated some of the comments received in the initial comment letter from the Center for Biological Diversity, and it raised additional concerns. The letter is provided as public comment and is attached to your agenda. Following the receipt of this letter, staff requested a meeting which occurred on the afternoon of August 18th, which is late yesterday afternoon, and included SBCAG staff, Rincon consultants, legal counsel, and the two commenting parties. In order to address the remaining concerns, Rincon and SBCAG staff suggested including additional mitigation measures in the EIR and a change to a land use policy in the Regional Transportation Plan. These measures and the policy will need to be included in a motion considering their late additions. Staff, our consultant, and legal counsel have reviewed the proposed changes and agree. I will walk you through them in a minute. And additionally, I would like to bring your attention to the comment letter provided by the county, which is an email chain included as attachment C. The county had requested some additional information analysis that the county staff felt was necessary to enable tiering. On August 6th, Margie met with county staff to talk through their concerns, and this resulted in all parties agreeing that it is appropriate to seek adoption of Connected 2050 and certification of the EIR at this time. Those staff will work more closely with the county when we revisit this process in the next cycle. So here's the recommended motion. We are asking you to conduct a public hearing, which Chair Sierra has already opened, certify the environmental document, and adopt Connected 2050. The red text notes the additional mitigation measures that are recommended to be included in the EIR and the policy modification for the RTP, which I will walk you through here. So there are 13 mitigation measures that are proposed to be added. There are no changes to Class 1, 2, or 3 impacts or findings. All of the mitigation measures revolve around impacts to wildlife connectivity, to wildlife caused by construction activities, and to sensitive species. So briefly, I will summarize them. One is that we consult with counties, cities, tribes, and other local organizations when potentially impacting open spaces. The second, design to minimize impacts to wildlife. The third, conduct analyses to maintain or improve wildlife connectivity. The fourth, analyze long linear projects for impacts to wildlife movement and choke points. 5, use a qualified biologist to determine risk of habitat fragmentation. 6, ensure preservation or mitigation of habitat linkages. 7, design to promote wildlife corridor redundancy. 8, install wildlife crossing amenities as appropriate. 9, install wildlife fencing where appropriate to minimize wildlife injury. 10, design conservation measures when impacts cannot be avoided. 11, use berms or barriers to encourage the use of former wildlife crossings. 12, which is related to the use of reducing the impacts of lighting on sensitive species. And finally, the 13th is these are related to the reduction of noise generated around sensitive species. And then we have one proposed policy modification. The existing policy is what's shown at the top on the blue table portion, which is related to land use. And we are recommending the addition of a 6th point, which is related to new development in high fire areas. And that brings us back to the recommended motion. And I'm happy to take any questions, and we have our planning team and environmental team available also.
Thank you very much, Mr. Becker. Any questions of staff? I'm looking for hands raised or somebody in Santa Barbara speaking up. I see.
Nobody in Santa Barbara, Madam Chair.
I see one hand. That would be Mr. Director Uhrig. Please.
Good morning, Chair Sierra. Thank you. Related to, I'm trying to think back now on the PowerPoint of page 1 of 3 with some of the mitigation efforts that would need to be done with the animals and all that other stuff. Is the San Ynez River Trail going to be impacted with some of that going forward along the river?
Director Uhrig, so currently that project is still in a conceptual phase, and it's only included in the regional transportation plan as an illustrative project, which means it's because there's no funding tied to it at this point. So an illustrative project is listed for information purposes, being if additional funding becomes available, it can be moved to become a plan project or a program project. The project, assuming it moves forward, would undergo its own environmental review at the project specific level. And these issues will most certainly come up and will be analyzed during that project. However, with this, the San Ynez River Trails, because it's unfunded, is not assumed to be a project in the regional transportation plan.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Director Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Sierra. So I want to make sure I understand this correctly. So no jurisdiction will be tied to this plan necessarily? They don't have to be bound by it?
Yes, Director Nelson, so for related to the Sustainable Community Strategy, the state through Senate Bill 375 tasks SBCAG with laying out a land use development pattern that working in conjunction with the transportation investments reduce greenhouse gases to a level that meets the state's targets. However, whenever that bill was written, the state recognized that the regional agencies do not have land use authority. So while we work with the local agencies and we develop a land use development pattern to satisfy the requirements of SB 375, SB 375 in itself is explicit that says that no local jurisdiction is required to plan or implement consistent with SBCAG's, the land use development pattern that we lay out.
So, no.
No. We have, the fortunate thing is I think the plan that we have laid out, it's identical to, or nearly identical to the 2013, 2017, so then we have 2021, three sustainable community strategies in a row. It's my thought that if we ever want to see any consistency with local planning is we don't make drastic changes every 4 years. We kind of find one that works and stick with it. And I think that most planners in this region would agree that we're not asking for anything that is beyond what is considered good contemporary planning in terms of trying to connect, minimize trip distances through closing jobs housing imbalance and ensuring that, or not ensuring, but promoting a development pattern where not every trip has to occur in a personal automobile.
And so just to confirm, no local jurisdiction is tied to having to be consistent with this. None of the requirements that they're going to have need to be.
No, the SB 375, there's a line in the bill specifically that says that local agencies are not required to plan consistent with a sustainable community strategy.
Well,
I will say
that
some grant applications do look for consistency, but that's not a requirement to be consistent.
Well, my concern, of course, is local control, making sure that the people that were elected to represent a certain community have the maximum ability to represent and have local land use planning. My fear is with SB 375, even though that doesn't necessarily have an impact, what other legislation in the future, would tie into this and potentially take away local control from our various jurisdictions. I think this is a very great deliberative body we have here, but a lot of my district, the only person that they've elected to serve on this is me. And so, that ends up becoming a problem in the future. And so that's my concern about, regional government plans. I'm glad, to do things that bring forth infrastructure. But doing planning, that's where it starts to get a little bit far afield for me and create some concerns. And again, it's not that this isn't good work or this isn't good planning. I really want to make sure that we're being, protective of our local control and making sure that the people who are making these land use decisions, our constituents, are ones that are representative, that they actually had a chance to elect and can hold accountable ultimately. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Director Nelson. I agree with you. I personally don't want more authority for land use, so just make this process more contentious than it already is. I think it's a good, happy medium where we can show what it takes to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from light-duty vehicles across the region, and whatever a jurisdiction does with that information is up to them. But it helps inform us how we make our transportation investments as well.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Becker.
Thank you, Director Nelson. Director Patino.
Yes, in this, you said something about that the zoning wouldn't allow building in high fire areas. That could very well be a gray area many times in zonings. I would, my concerns are there with Director Nelson also. And then secondly, Union Valley Parkway extension to the east, that needs to be in the plan to move forward.
Okay, first on the high fire area, Director Patino. So the high fire risk area is to be included as a policy within the regional transportation plan. And just as I was mentioning to Director Nelson, these are policies of SBCAG, and they're not bearing on any jurisdiction. And to read the policy with the first letter, the introduction, and then number 6 is, the planning, construction, and operation of transportation facilities shall be coordinated with local land use planning and should encourage local agencies to dissuade the siting of new development in high fire risk areas. And I think the key word there is encourage. So, the most power that SBCAG would have through this policy is writing a letter that's saying our regional transportation plan doesn't agree with this. But ultimately, it doesn't stop a local jurisdiction from making its own decisions. On Union Valley Parkway, I understand it's currently going through a community plan update, and I believe we can, because there's no funding tied to that either, it would be an illustrative project. I have no problem. It doesn't impact the environmental review because it would be illustrative that we can, if you want to add that to a motion, we can ensure it's included as an illustrative project.
Yes, I would like to. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, Director Patino. Director Lavignino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just curious what happens, I see that it's a requirement. What happens, are there any MPOs that have decided to not do this? And if not, what kind of funding streams are we putting at risk?
Director Lavignino, so for the requirement being to develop a sustainable community strategy and to get that approved by the Air Resources Board, I think there's one MPO in the state that was unable to satisfy the greenhouse gas reduction targets, which I believe Margie knows more about than I do. So SB 375 gives you the option. If you cannot achieve the greenhouse gas reduction targets through the development of a sustainable community strategy, you have the ability to develop what's called an alternative planning strategy, which basically just shows how you would achieve them, given without constraints. And considering that the land use aspect of the sustainable community strategy is already kind of advisory, really, there's not a whole lot that's different. I would take it essentially without constraints. This is what we'd do to achieve the targets. So at the end of the day, they would probably look very similar. However, I believe what would end up happening is if we chose to go with alternative planning strategy is the Air Resources Board would come down on us pretty hard to get us to transition that to a sustainable community strategy, which I believe is what happened with the other MPO.
What I guess my question is, you know, there's counties around this state that may have different views about these things, and I could see that, you know, if you had a bunch of people that were reading something else into this and were trying to push back on SB 375 and just said, hey, go pound sand, what's the axe hanging over our head?
That's a good question, because there's no state or there's no MPO that doesn't have a current sustainable community strategy. Everybody ended up at the end of the day coming up with one.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody in Santa Barbara that wishes to speak on this item number? Okay, I don't see any more hands up, so I'm going to move this to public comment. Do we have any public comment on this?
Chair Sierra, we received one late comment from Mr. Tom Becker via email this morning. I can either read it into record or I will forward it to the board members after the meeting.
You said it was a short letter?
It is a short letter. Let me find it here. Okay, I'm gonna read it.
Go ahead and read it.
I need to find it first. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Here it is. Okay. Okay, this says the final PEIR for the Connected 2050 RTP SCS and the RTP SCS plan itself has failed to address the needed reduction in vehicle miles traveled required to receive GHG reductions. It has also failed to address the issues surrounding environmental justice. Comments will be submitted to CARB during CARB's review of the RTP SCS plan and PEIR. Thank you. And that's it.
All righty. Thank you very much. Is there no other public comment then?
We received no other public comment.
All righty. Board discussion on this item? Okay. Hearing seeing no hands, hearing nothing, I am going to close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Madam Chair, this is Director Hart. I'll move approval of the staff recommendations. And I just want to
thank you, Director Hart.
want to add that I appreciate the additional mitigation measures that were included. Those are really helpful. Thank you, Mr. Becker.
And second by Uhrig.
Thank you, Director Uhrig. And does that include Director Patino's request to have Union Valley Parkway put in as an illustrative?
Uhrig thinks that.
Okay. Director Hart, is that part of your motion?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Roll call.
Director Williams?
Aye.
Hart?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye.
Nelson?
Abstain.
Lavanino?
Aye.
Uhrig?
Aye.
Julian?
Aye.
Osborne?
Aye.
Patino?
Aye, and thank you.
Perotti?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Murillo?
Aye, with thanks for making changes related to our city's request. Thank you.
And Chair Sierra.
Aye.
Motion passes 12-01.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 6. Will you please read that into the record?
Thank you, Chair Sierra. Item 6 is distribution of state transit funding for low carbon transit operations program and state of good repair program. Approval of new distribution process for low carbon transit operations program and state of good repair program as recommended by the Technical Transportation Advisory Committee.
Thank you very much. Sarkis Kachek has our presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, directors. Good morning.
So there's a PowerPoint today. This PowerPoint includes content taken from the staff report that was included in the board mailout. So for the past few months, staff has been meeting with transit operator partners to look at new distribution methods for two state funding programs, the Low Carbon Transit Operations Program and the State of Good Repair Transit Funding Program. In terms of some high-level background, combined we get about $1.4 million annually for our region. This money comes to us based on a population basis, and SBCAG has the discretion to determine the process for selecting eligible projects. Since the creation of the two programs, SBCAG staff has been working with transit partners to look at a needs-based approach for selecting projects rather than distributing based on population. The reason for this is that it allows SBCAG to and our transit partners to look at projects that meet the eligibility, and in some cases, it allows us to fund projects that may not be funded based on a population basis. So we really appreciate the collaboration that we've had with our transit partners with this approach. Recently, however, we have heard concern from our transit partners about the equity of distribution of funding between regional projects and local projects and between North County and South Coast. In the staff report, you can see a list of projects that have been approved by the SBCAG board for these two funding programs. So we took this concern to heart, and so we've been working with transit partners on identifying a distribution method that could address the concern of equity, and then that way we can proceed forward with making sure that our partners are moving forward on approach that has consensus. So we've been meeting with our partners the last few months. We have presented to the TTAC, Technical Transportation Advisory Committee, as well as the North County and the South Coast Sub-Regional Planning Committees to receive input and feedback on the processes. Included in the staff report and on the screen are the three options that the board has for the distribution of the funding between the two programs. As I mentioned, SBCAG receives the money on a population basis, but has discretion on how to determine the process for selecting eligible projects. The first option is option A, and what it is it takes 10% of the $1.4 million approximately, and it makes it eligible to 4 regional projects: the Clean Air Express, Coastal Express, Peak Hour Passenger Rail, and the San Luis Obispo Regional Transit Authority Route 10, which goes from San Luis Obispo to Santa Maria. After that, 44% of funds are made available to the North County transit programs and projects. This can include Santa Maria Area Transit and Santa Ynez Valley Transit as examples. And then 46% for South Coast transit projects and programs, including Santa Barbara MTD and Easy Lift. The reason for the distribution of the 44% and 46% is that the operators came to consensus that there's a higher usage of transit on the South Coast, but then and there are also higher capital needs on the South Coast. However, there is an equitable consensus reached between the two programs based on the needs between North County and South Coast. And so that's why the 44% of 46% is presented. When we're looking at these three pots, we're not looking at an application process to make the transit operators go through that. What we're looking for is what we call a nomination process, similar to the Transportation Development Act funding, where we will look to operators to nominate projects between the regional, the north, and the south pots, and then ultimately SBCAG will approve those projects. So option A was recommended by transit operators, the South Coast Sub-Regional Planning Committee, and the Technical Transportation Advisory Committee. Option B has 10% to regional, but the regional would only include the Clean Air Express due to its nature of being going from North County to South Coast and vice versa. And then after that, the recommendation for the option B from the North County Subregional has 52% of remaining funds for North County projects, and that would also include the Route 10, and then 48% for South Coast transit programs. The 52-48 split is based on the current split of population in the Santa Barbara County region. And so that's the basis for the 52-48 split. This is a recommendation, as I mentioned, by the North County Subregional Planning Committee. The final option is the board has the option to maintain status quo. We would continue to work with transit operators and take 100% of funds and do an application process based on need. So the recommendation today is the approval of the distribution process, option A, as recommended by the Technical Transportation Advisory Committee. This concludes staff's presentation, and I can take any questions at this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kachek. Are there any questions? Pardon?
Chair Sierra, we have Jerry Estrada from MTD that would like to make a comment.
Okay, certainly. Mr. Estrada?
Thank you, Chair Sierra. Good morning, directors. This is Jerry Estrada, General Manager, Santa Barbara MTD. I've submitted my comments via letter. I'm sure you've received them. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank our peers in North County for working together to deal with such a complex issue and come to a consensus on option A. We recognize you have other options to you, but I just wanted to share that appreciation for our North County peers and let you know I'm here to answer any questions if you have them of MTD. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. All righty. Moving on to questions for staff. I don't see any hands raised.
Director Hartman has a question.
Please, Director Hartman.
In the staff report, it says that there was a deficit and that accounts for the difference in the North and South County. Could you elaborate that a little bit? Should I read it? It's in the first paragraph. Summary of prior programming.
Yeah, so through the chair, Director Hartman, so what we're doing is we're looking at the past programming and then catching up for that. And then moving forward, we're going to make sure that we've met the difference between the programming cycles.
So if I may follow up, the transit operators and the TTAC, we're looking at equity in a broader context. And that's why they came up with option A. And they were all, there was a broad consensus for that option?
Yes, that is correct.
Was it unanimous?
From the operators, it was unanimous consensus.
And the TTAC?
TTAC was not unanimous. It was a vote of 7-1-4 at the last meeting when we presented in May. The only option presented in May was option A. That was unanimous, but then when we went back a couple weeks ago, we did present the option B, and so we did not have unanimous support due to the new option.
Sure. So the second time they were consistent with the policymakers, but the first time when they exercised their own judgment, it was unanimous and it was a broad consensus.
The second time was not unanimous.
But the first time was.
First time was unanimous.
That was my
correct.
point. Thank you.
All righty. Director Nelson?
Yeah, I just understand Director Hartman's, the broader equity. I didn't understand what that meant. So if she could elaborate, I just want to try to understand it for the sake of the discussion.
I would ask staff to explain that.
I will attempt to explain that. As we proceed with as we get through the current programming, this new policy wouldn't take effect, I think, until 23, 24, 24, 25. That's because we just recently completed a programming cycle for the State of Good Repair program. And so moving forward, based on the policy that's being presented, that is the policy that the transit operators felt would be an equitable distribution of funding moving forward, looking at the 10% for regional and then going to the 44% for North County and 46% for South Coast.
My follow-up question is, I guess, what is the criteria that was used for equity?
The criteria used for equity between the 44 and 46% was looking at what happened was the operators looked at a lot of different options or criteria for determining the distribution of funding. You could look at straight population, you could look at ridership, you could look at capital needs. And based on the two funding programs and the needs between North County and South Coast, the operators felt that that going with 44% for North County and 46% for the South Coast would meet the needs between looking at all the different criteria and looking at the eligible projects that could be selected between the two funding programs. On the South Coast, there is more support for looking at the State of Good Repair program, which allows for operators to fund capital needs. And so that was the desire of the South Coast. And then on the North County for the low carbon transit operations program, it allows for both operating and capital. And so that was where the consensus was reached between the operators.
Okay, I still don't understand the equity part, but I'll move on from that. Can you give us actually the vote on that once both options were presented to TTAC, on which jurisdictions voted for which option, or the final vote of option A? Because it's 714 and the staff report doesn't reflect who was a no vote and who was the 4 abstentions, and I guess we could figure out the ayes from the balance.
Yes. So through the chair and Director Nelson. Oh, thank you, Mike. I added that too. So the second time when we went back in July, the motion by TTAC was 714. The no vote was City of Santa Maria. And then the abstentions were City of Guadalupe, County of Santa Barbara, Caltrans, and the Air Pollution Control District. I can provide the ayes if that's...
Yeah, sure.
Okay. It was the ayes were the City of Buellton, City of Carpinteria, City of Goleta, City of Lompoc, City of Santa Barbara, City of Solvang, and Santa Barbara MTD.
Thank you. I'll have some comments. Those are my questions for right now.
And this is Director Hartman, if I may, just again, I'm not sure I fully understood it, but what this, if I may, Chair?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the total programming for each county geographic area is summarized, and then it goes on with the FY 2021 LCTOP funding amount being less than the FY 1920 amount. The deficit will be accounted for with the FY 21-22 funding. This is the primary reason why the South Coast total LCTOP funding is higher. So that's what I'm trying to understand, the deficit.
So that was, so let me clarify that. So through the chair, Director Hartman, the beauty of our work is that each year we get a different amount of money from the state. Through the low carbon transit operations program, the revenues are derived from the cap and trade sales. So each year can fluctuate. So what happened was the one year we had a higher amount, and then the next year, which was for the South Coast, and then the next year the amount was lower based on the proceeds that we received or the revenues from the proceeds. So what we're going to do is that for the North County, we're going to make sure that we capture the same amount that the South Coast received for the future year to make sure that we are meeting the north and south distribution.
Oh.
So one year came in higher, the second year came in lower.
Madam Chair, I
Go ahead, Director Williams.
I have great dreams of expanding transit and ridership into the North County and connecting this county like never before, but allocating funds in a manner like attachment B without regard to how many vehicles each is being operated, how many revenue miles, how many revenue hours, would be a little bit like allocating road funding on a population basis only, which would, I mean, just conceive of what that would do to our county. It would mean that, many areas of the county would have a great neglect on their service just because they have more road miles. And we don't allocate things that way. We don't allocate road funding, at least in the county, on a population basis because of the dysfunction it would create. And I think that's why we're seeing a vote at the TTAC and from the advice of operators to go with option A. And I hope that is the route that we pursue because it is functional. It is also functional to have some of the members of this board agitate for more transit in the north. I love seeing that, and I think we need to perform to that. But I think today it is really important to straddle some middle ground between the status quo and our hopes and dreams, and go with option A.
Thank you, Director Williams. I had a quick question. If we went with option A, and I'm just looking at the regional funds, which look like they're going to be close to $150,000 a year. If you break that into the peak hour passenger rail, the Clean Air Express, the Coastal Express, and the slow RTA Route 10, seeing that Clean Air Express is the only transit that actually goes north and south county, how much of that money, of that $150,000, would each group actually get?
So, Chair Sierra, we haven't prescribed a split between the four systems. What we would do is look at the needs for all services for every call for projects, and then determine how to split the funding between the four services based on need. So obviously the Route 10 we would be working with the City of Santa Maria and then San Luis Obispo Transit Authority on what their needs are, and then work through that process to present the recommended projects for the 10%.
All righty, thank you. Director Nelson?
Oh, that's really muted there. I think there might be actually a good compromise here. I understand and I take Director Williams' point about our other portions of the county, and I think at least in North County, we do it as a population and lane mile split. So I get that. Maybe there's a potential here for option A plus, which might be the North and South County split, as we've have proposed here by TTAC, but really carving out the regional portion just for our truly really whole county regional transportation, which is a Clean Air Express, and then bifurcating these other two uses back into the South County, North County pools, so that it really does have equity on the regional perspective. I could support a motion that maybe did that. That might be a good compromise, so that we can respect the North and South issues that are happening within the regional transportation areas and needs. I know that, and I respect that there's more of a built-out infrastructure, and so there's more needs in the South Coast. But it's also, kind of a chicken or egg thing for the North County. I'm a big fan of the Clean Air Express. It seems like that is a public transit that works and needs to be continued to be invested in. And so this might be an opportunity to make sure there's extra funding going to the Clean Air Express by making that our regional portion, and then bringing back these other, that are really regional for one portion of the county or other, or, and we can work on partnerships, obviously, with SLO County and Ventura County on those other projects. But I think for this portion, there might be something there that we can compromise on.
Thank you, sir. Director Urick?
Yes, I think just piggybacking on what Director Nelson just said, especially for the North County, the slow RTA, does San Luis Obispo have this portion also funded so that there's a little bit of a partnership with us and them in San Luis Obispo County for that particular line that's being used for going into slow?
Okay.
Chair, if that was a question related to the Route 10?
Yes, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I'm going to think about how I want to answer this question, because there's the beauty of transit funding is that there's a lot of threads that we can talk about here. But there is a commitment by San Luis Obispo County and the San Luis Obispo Regional Transit Authority to help fund the Route 10. And then there is also a funding contribution from the city of Santa Maria through the federal FTA 5307 urbanized area program. And your board recently approved the 3-year cycle, I think, at the last meeting. So there is a partnership funding contribution between SMAT and Florida Route 10. So what we're doing with this program or this policy then is allowing for another fund source to be made available to help fund the Route 10.
All right. Thank you for that clarification.
Chair
Thank you,
Sierra, this is Director Hart.
Director Hart, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to encourage board members to take a very big picture view of this item, because the amounts that we're talking about in the 10% set aside for regional services is a very modest amount of money. It's $150,000 for these 4 services that all provide mobility and transportation options for different segments of residents of Santa Barbara County and residents of Ventura and San Luis Obispo County. These services, particularly, the Coastal Express service primarily brings people from Ventura County to jobs in South Santa Barbara County. There's a reverse commute element of that, so there are some trips that are going from Santa Barbara County residents to Ventura County. Similarly, the Florida Route 10, serves that corridor between Santa Maria and San Luis Obispo. Folks go in both directions, but the primary pulse are residents of Santa Maria going to jobs in South San Luis Obispo County. And the Cleaner Express, as we all know, brings folks from North County residences to South County jobs. So all of these things help grease the wheels of economic vitality of all the county. We all depend on these different systems that all have their niche audiences to make the whole county work as one economic engine and to improve the quality of life by reducing congestion and emissions everywhere. So I'm impressed that the TTAC representatives largely have been supportive of this with multiple votes, despite some political waves in the air, and just would encourage us to stay out of manipulating these funds and micromanaging and creating some kind of sense of division about North County, South County transit allocations, because these systems work really well and the people who are operating them collaborate really well, and I think we would do well to let them do their job.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to go to Director Lavanino and then to Director Nelson and then to Director Perotti. Director Lavanino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I agreed with about 95% of that last statement, except for calling it manipulation and those micromanaging. We're all got to stick up for what we think is right. So I applaud Supervisor Nelson for his efforts. But for me, I have to say I agree with Supervisor Hart also that it's $40,000, and for me that's not something for me to it would have to be something that I'm to go against the wishes of the operators and also TTAC. For me, it would have to be something that was egregious. I don't really see this as egregious, and so I am in support of option A.
All righty. Thank you. Director Nelson?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify my statements. By no means am I looking to blow up the system that we have in our county. I'm not saying that we should defund any of the other regional transportation pieces. I'm just saying that, the money's coming to our county based on equity, which is, in this case, the definition of that would be population. So the dollars are connected to the people. This would be something we should look at. And that's where I'm coming from on this. I do find it interesting when TTAC was given an option between, a various, an option A and option B, that the vote started to shift a little bit. So there shows that there's something there that might need some additional political cover, if you will. And that's what I'm here to do, as I think Supervisor Lavanino has acknowledged, that this conversation is one that we need to have. And I think this, I'm fine with being unsuccessful today. I'm not going to be offended, but I do want to be a voice to say, hey, let's be looking at this thing maybe a little bit differently. And the status quo should maybe be shaken up a little bit. And so that's the effort that I'm making here. It is a small amount of money, but that's true on both sides. Giving in, that won't hurt the other side, one way or the other, probably in the end. So that's my perspective here. I won't be supporting a motion for option A. I could support a motion for A+, which would just single out the regional transportation piece as Clean Air Express. I do think that's something we should be continuing to invest in as a regional piece, and then going from there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Director Parodi, then Director Patino.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, well, this topic has come to us several times, and I will be honest and say I was hoping that staff would come with a recommendation, which I had asked for, but I can understand why they haven't. But after looking at Mr. Estrada's letter and all the comments that he's made, and also I do place a lot of value on TTAC and Santa Barbara Transit operators and their opinions, and it seems like option A is something that has been well supported. I'm a little uncomfortable with making a decision on the dais of option A+. I'm not 100% sure I understand, but also that hasn't been run through TTAC or Santa Barbara County Transit. So I will be supporting option A. And thank you. Thank you all for your comments. It is really important. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Parodi. We go to Director Patino and then Director Murillo.
Yes, I realize it is a small amount of money, but I still think the equity there is extremely important. And I really support Director Nelson's compromise. I think that's just a great idea. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Murillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be supporting option A today. I too was persuaded by Jerry Estrada's letter and the breakdown of the use of transit. It seems that would the use and the funding match, and I would support TTAC. They have a task, and they've made a recommendation as well as the operators. So yeah, with all due respect, option A for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Parodi, is your hand is still up? Okay, you're done. Anybody else?
Sure, Madam Chair. This is Das Williams in Santa Barbara, and I would caution against preemptively excluding in the regional pot peak hour passenger rail and the Coastal Express and Route 10. All three of those services are important. Two of those for South County, one for North County, and I would argue regionally it's important for us all. I think Director Nelson, though, does touch on the preeminent importance of the Clean Air Express. And I would just, though I support option A and will vote for it today, I would make a commitment that, the stats that have been shown to us indicate that, especially once when and if we get to any semblance of normal, that the Clean Air Express would be some of the best investment. I would support a funding push by other means with Director Nelson to make sure that service is fully utilized. And I think the stats that we saw pre-COVID at least indicated that it was not, that we could be running another one or two a day and that they would be highly subscribed. As a different form of an olive branch that doesn't just sort of preemptively exclude these other three services, I would agree that with the preeminence importance of the Clean Air Express and work with Director Nelson to make sure that the adequate funding for that service to be fully utilized is realized.
Thank you very much, Director Williams. I'm going to do Director Julian, then Director Nelson.
Sure. Now, thank you for getting into the weeds of the TTAC vote. If anybody knows Shannon Sweeney, she very rarely is on the fence. She's either one way or the other. And I noticed her vote was an abstention. I wish I had more time to get into it with her, but I do question why she was questioning that or didn't really support that particular motion. So I'm still wavering on approving A or following Mr. Nelson's opinion. So thank you.
All righty. Thank you. Director Nelson.
Well, again, I just wanted to thank everybody for the discussion. I think it's a good one to have. And I thank staff for indulging us and taking the time to do this. One, just a housekeeping issue, and it may just be my office, but the letter from Mr. Estrada didn't make it to my packet. And, I know we just on this last presentation, we didn't get the PowerPoint. It was late. I think that's something we really need to start to make sure that we're cleaning up, because I'm curious on what he wrote, and that might have been informative to my decision. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Murillo. Oh, is your hand not okay?
Yeah,
never mind.
I was muted. Sorry. Is it time for a motion? I'm sorry.
No, actually, I haven't opened it up to the public for public comment. So why don't I go do that right now? Do we have any public comment on this item?
Chair, we have no public comment.
All righty, then I'm bringing it back for discussion and a possible motion.
Madam Chair, may I?
Please.
With all due respect to the conversation and the hard work that we all do on behalf of our constituencies, I'll move option A. And let me see if there was a second part of the motion. Mr. Karchak, what would be the motion? I'm sorry, I'm trying to find my.
Through the chair, Director Murillo, the motion would be to recommend approval of option A for the distribution of the two funding programs.
So moved.
Second, Director Hart.
Director Williams, second. Paula Prody's hand. Is your hand up, Director Prody?
It was. I was going to second it.
Okay. Roll call.
Director Williams.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Hartman.
Aye.
Nelson.
No.
Levanino.
Aye.
Uhrig.
Aye.
Julian.
Aye.
Osborne.
No.
Patino.
No.
Prody.
Aye.
Clark. Director Clark.
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you. Murillo.
Aye.
And Chair Sierra.
Aye.
Motion passes 10-3.
All righty. Moving on. We are going on to our 1-minute reports. So who wants to give us their 1-minute version of what's going on in their community? Director Julian, please.
Yes, thank you. As you may know, we had our 75th year incorporation anniversary canceled. It was recommended by the county public health to postpone it, but we just went ahead and canceled it. So you all are going to receive an RSVP for 2046 for a 100-year anniversary. We also are doing our general plan update, and that'll be finished probably within the next 30 days or so. And regarding Caltrans, I'm sorry, Cal Vans, I don't know, did you receive this suit?
No, I did not.
Okay, well, you will receive a copy and a CD of there was a wrongful death issue submitted to Cal Vans. So that's just a heads up. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Perotti and then Director Uhrig.
Sorry, Madam Chair, had to unmute myself. Well, okay, so I have a few things. This week, which is exciting for me because it's something that I've been advocating for since long before I was even on the city council. We approved a construction contract with J.J. Fisher Construction for the rectangular rapid flashing beacon improvements at school crosswalks. And these will be placed on off of Cathedral Oaks, which is anybody that knows Cathedral Oaks on the western end. It's very wide street. It screams speed, and a lot of children crossing guards there have their hands full getting them across. So they'll be placed at Brandon, Evergreen, and Carlo. So I'm excited to see that, and that was partially funded with Measure A money. The train depot project is now in the final stretch, the design phase. The meeting on July 13th by the DRB, they support the final design. So that's kind of exciting. And it looks like the project team is planning to start construction of the train depot in the summer of 2022. More than 400 people took our community interest survey on bringing bike share pilot program to Goleta. So that was encouraging, and hopefully we'll be doing a bike share. It'll come back to the council. And then residential customers in Goleta will begin receiving service from Central Coast Community Energy in October of 2021. So that's the transitional date. And also kind of disappointing, the COVID numbers, because of the increase in the COVID numbers, we've had one live meeting, and now we're back to all virtual meetings, and we'll see how it goes from there. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Perotti. Director Uhrig?
Yes, thank you, Chair Sierra. Just coming up real quick, we have a upcoming council meeting on Monday where it's a joint session with our planning commission to discuss our general plan. We're working on that as well. It won't be completed for another year or so, but we're in the process of going through and getting our policies all up to date. A number of them haven't been updated since Solvang incorporated in 1988. So that's one. One of the other issues is that our last council meeting, we approved money going forward for the Alamo Pintado Bridge Creek bike lane modifications with Caltrans. So hopefully we'll be able to get that started. I know the project is not due to start, sadly, until 2 or 3 years from now. But at least the funding is now being available for that. So that was a good project going forward. In our regular session this coming Monday, we have a couple of different projects, some that are, one is going to be about our Copenhagen Drive closure. We've put together a group, joint commission of citizens and business owners for Copenhagen Drive to be able to discuss that, whether we're going to keep it closed for further or any of that going forward. We also are looking at possibly giving some funding for our Theater Fest, which is currently going to be undergoing a major remodel over the next year. So there's only one event that is happening, I think, in a week, and then it'll be shut down for a year. So that is something to consider. We're also considering our stage 2 drought for restrictions, possibly putting that in place. So that's on the negative side. I wish we had better news on that. And then finally, on the 28th, we will have our State of the City coming up at the Vets Hall, and that will be open to the public. So still, that's it for now in solving. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Urig. Director Murillo.
Thank you, Chair Sierra. I'm reporting that we have a new Public Works Director. His name is Cliff Maurer, and he will be doing good things for us. We also recently appointed an interim city administrator, Rebecca Bjork, who was in charge of our public works, and then she went to deputy city administrator. She'll be our acting city administrator. Our excellent administrator, Paul Casey, is leaving his position. So changes and good things ahead for the city. Our committee that's looking at refining our car-free promenade along State Street has had its first meeting. And so that impacts our MTD shuttle and all kinds of road and transportation factors. And so that's important. And we're still trying to, we have a beautiful old bridge near the Mission. It's has great historic significance. It also is a road and an evacuation route. So we're still trying to figure out how to balance those two things, historic resources and public safety and just having a road that takes people from one place to another. And our State of the City will be virtual this year. We'll put it online in a couple of weeks. And like Mayor Perotti, we too are still meeting in virtual format for COVID safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Murillo. Director Patino.
Thank you. We have begun the earthwork on our project at the landfill. Is that our Cell 1 extension project? And the project consists of the installation of the earthen geosynthetic piping and components of a groundwater protection liner system for the Cell 1. And we have a new assistant city manager, Andrew Hackelman. And our ADA paratransit riders are offered free rides to vaccination appointments for the next 6 months. And we just had our National Night Out, which is a community building campaign that promotes the police and community partnerships. We do that at different parks every year. And of course, we couldn't do it last year, but we did it at our new Aquistapache Park and probably had, I don't know, it's hard to know the numbers. I got there late, but maybe between 1,500, 2,000 people show up and they interact with our law enforcement people. And they have a great time at the park and get free hot dogs, and it's very family oriented. They bring their kids, so that was great. And that is it, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Director Patino. I don't see any hands raised. Is there anybody in Santa Barbara that wants to give a 1-minute report?
Sure. The 101 corridor continues to be chaotic, though not as chaotic as it was 6 weeks ago. So that's good. Hope that people will continue to drive at reasonable speeds and take into account that a reasonable speed is lower than their normal reasonable speed, given the constraints of the corridor. I want to thank the many CHP officers that have come and helped because it's sad. I live so close to the freeway. I can always hear the sirens for the accidents, and it's sad. They happen in the same places, repeatedly, and God willing, we don't want to see anybody else dramatically hurt out there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Director Williams. Director Lavigno.
Well, I'm not sure it's a 1-minute report, but and I probably should wait for Scott to make his presentation. But I just wanted to give a big thank you to Caltrans because I think this is something we're all going to be dealing with, as we move forward with the work that's being done on homeless encampments. And so I have received a lot of help from Caltrans. They've got a whole new team associated with that, and as more funding becomes available, I'm sure we're going to be able to do a lot more good work both for the residents that surround these areas and also for the people that find themselves in a position where they think that this is the best that their life's going to get. So we actually have one on Jones Street that we have now posted, and we'll be actually be doing the cleanup on Monday. So it's right across the street from Hancock College. So I want to thank Caltrans for their efforts.
Thank you, sir. I don't see any other hands raised. I just wanted to give a quick shout out. Buellton had their barbecue bonanza the end of July, and I wanted to thank Director Urig and his band for performing at our barbecue. Good music, good music, and thank you very much. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to the Executive Director's report.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chairperson, members of the board. I just want to let you know that the Clean Air Express proposals were due. This is the request for proposals that we sent out a month or so ago for the service and operations and maintenance of the Clean Air Express buses. We received 3 proposals. Staff will be presenting a recommendation to the North County Subregional at their September meeting, with the final contract coming back to the board, hopefully in October. So fingers crossed, all goes well there. We're starting a promotional campaign on August 20th for the Clean Air Express. We want to promote the Tap to Ride service that we're providing on the buses, where people can pay for their tickets without touching anything. They can just use their credit cards or their ATMs to board the bus. So that will be $1 Tap to Ride starting on August 20th. I want to thank again, I thanked her at the subregional, but I'll thank her again, Director Osborne, for volunteering at the Lompoc Easy Bike pop-up that we did at the last Lompoc Farmers Market. We are having another pop-up this weekend in Santa Maria at the BC Central 310 East Oak Street. That will be from 12 to 4. So if anybody's interested in checking that out, you can check out all the electric bikes that are available. I think there's 10 or 13 of those, somewhere around there. And last but not least, I want to thank Lauren Bianchi-Clement for presenting to the Goleta Rotary last week. The presentation was basically an overview of SBCAG and what we do, and the status of the 101 project and everything else that we have going on in the agency. With that, I just want to invite anybody else. If you have a group that you would like SBCAG to speak to, we are more than happy to come out and about and see our beautiful county and share the good work that we're doing as an agency. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions if anybody has anything, but other than that, I'm done. Thank you.
Scott. Okay.
Is someone's microphone not on? I can't hear anything. It's Director Maria.
Scott, go ahead and speak.
Oh, okay. Be happy to. Sorry, I didn't hear the introduction. Sorry about that. So, Madam Chair, members of the board, I am Scott Eads, here to provide the District Director's report today. I have a few items to share with you that are kind of statewide related, but certainly have a local context. The first is the draft ITSP, or the Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, was released for review on August 3rd. The plan provides a policy framework and as well as some kind of location-specific recommendations for improvements related to interregional travel. It is aligned with new statewide initiatives and policies related to CAPDI, Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure, and other recent planning efforts, including the State Freight Mobility Plan and the State Rail Plan. It does include an increased focus on equity, multimodal travel, reduction in vehicle miles traveled, and ZEV, or zero emission vehicle travel and infrastructure. So those are themes we're seeing a lot more. Not a surprise. It's also in your own regional transportation plan. And then I also highlight that the Central Coast is highlighted as a specific travel region in the plan. There are 11 strategic interregional corridors throughout the state. One of those is 101, and another is State Route 46 in San Luis Obispo County that you're familiar with in terms of an east-west corridor. And then the plan also addresses not only highway travel, but also rail, and emphasizes the need for multimodal improvements related to interregional travel as well when those improvements are occurring. Finally, the plan does include some draft ITIP scoring criteria. That's the portion of the STIP that Caltrans controls. You're familiar with RTIP, which is what SBCAG controls in terms of funding. So there's funding scoring criteria that are again in draft form in the plan. And also, finally, just to wrap this particular item up, is there's 3 workshops that were scheduled. One already has occurred, and that was on August 12th for the ITIP scoring criteria. And then there's another one coming up on August 24th from 10 to 11 on the plan, focused on the northern portion of California. And then on August 26th from 10 to 11, focusing on the southern counties. And the content will be the same for both. So if you wanted to sit in, if you're just interested in learning, you're welcome to sit on both of those. And then comments are due on the plan on the 10th of September. Next item is the CTC is hosting a workshop, and they're kicking off their process for their competitive SB1 grant programs that they control. You're familiar with the Local Partnership Program, or LPP, Solutions for Congested Corridors, SCCP, or Trade Corridor Enhancement Program. We've been successful in these programs in the Santa Barbara 101 corridors in the past, so I know your staff is well aware, and we're looking forward to coordinating with your staff as we start to think ahead about upcoming funding opportunities. You can register for a workshop, which is scheduled and will be held on the 24th of this month from 1 to 4 p.m. You can register for that on the CTC website at catc.ca.gov. And then finally, I wanted to touch on another statewide initiative that you probably have heard about called Clean California. And it's a $1 billion effort that'll play out over the next few years. To focus on removing litter, creating jobs, and beautifying California. There's several sub portions of that program. The first is litter abatement over the next 3 years that are focused on the state highway system. We actually have we're in the process of hiring 2 special crews that will be focusing specifically on that. One will be stationed in Santa Maria and the other in Salinas in the northern part of the district. And they will move around to other parts of the district to try to really diminish the amount of trash that we've collected on the highway. Even though we've been working at it pretty consistently, it continues to collect. And then the other part of it is the state beautification projects, again, on the state highway system that will play out over a couple years. And then there's the local beautification projects, which are through a local grant program. And the last portion is the public education, which will be an overarching effort to try to bring awareness to trash and how it is a problem and things that we can do to prevent it person by person. So back to the local grant program, I just want to highlight that local communities or local jurisdictions will be eligible to receive funds. There will be an application process. Call for projects are scheduled for December. So your staff should be growing in awareness of this. We are sending out stuff to our local agency contacts. It's being managed through the local assistance branch. And then once the applications are announced, we'll have 8 weeks, or individual jurisdictions will have 8 weeks to submit applications. There are 2 workshops that are being scheduled specific to this local grant program. The first is on September 1st from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 in the afternoon on September 1st, and then October 7th at the same time. So that concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, sir. Any questions for Mr. Eads? Director Uhrig.
Thank you for that report, Scott. I just is the funds that you were just talking about, is that in addition to Adopt a Highway, or is that in conjunction with the Adopt a Highway program that's already going on?
Yes, Director Yerrick, through the chair, it is in addition to. This is part of the new state budget, and this dollars are set aside for this brand new program. So Adopt a Highway, we sponsor signs and help facilitate that process, but it's that's a volunteer effort. This is in addition to all that. So we'll continue the Adopt a Highway program. That's still important, and we greatly appreciate volunteers that are willing to do that. This is to supplement, efforts that are already underway in terms of the Adopt a Highway program and our own maintenance forces, which collect a lot of trash already.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Anybody else?
This is Director Hartman. I had a question. How is beautification defined?
Director Hartman, through the chair, great question. Well, so for the local grant programs, there'll be a lot more information in terms of what they're looking for and the criteria that will be used to evaluate and then fund, or score and then fund those projects. Part of it can be litter removal. Part of it is landscaping. It can be art installations or changing the look of infrastructure through, color or texture, things like that. So it is focused on public places, public spaces, roadways, and it can include a whole host of different things. And that's true for the state highway projects as well as the local projects. But I think the goal here is to recognize that, many of our facilities are unsightly due to trash buildup or, landscaping that has not, that has died over the years. And, it doesn't have to be landscape. It can also be hardscape and things that will help beautify the places and make them look more or less unsightly and more aesthetically pleasing. Hopefully that helped.
Thank you, Director Hartman. Anybody else? All righty. Mr. Eads, thank you very much for your report. We move on to committee meetings, and I see that Director Julian has a Calvans report.
Yeah, just briefly, I touched earlier on the wrongful death suit, and it basically involves nothing in this area. It's in the Yuma area, and it involves a bicycle versus a Calvans unit. But I'll give that information to you. And the last meeting we had, this month's meeting was canceled, but prior to that, we were working on some personnel issues. And then also on the loan repayments on the Calvin side. So as soon as I get more information on it, I'll report.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, we have no communications. Before I adjourn, I just want to wish Ms. Contreras, our clerk, a happy wedding, upcoming nuptials. And with that, I am adjourning our meeting until Thursday, September 16th at 10 a.m. Thank you.